Hi, brothers and sisters. This is not part 6 of Unlocking the Mysteries of the Bible with the Key of David. I'll tell you, I got going in and got ready to put my notes down for video 6 to do the wrap-up. And I thought, well, I'll refresh myself on the right hand and those passages. And so what happened is I ended up hitting on a study that I probably should have done and included. And it really fascinated me. I guess the way that I ended up on it is because it was there in my subconscious all along because of some movies that I had watched. And it was the Godzilla series that I watched. And so I began to watch the movie and said, this is not supposed to be taken literal, these movies are supposed to be taken allegorically. That's what they're supposed to be taken at. So when I started studying the right hand, I couldn't help but have that allegory in the back of my mind, and it just all of a sudden come together. So guess what we're going to call this day? We're going to call it Behemoth, Israel, will take out Leviathan, Babylon. So there's your allegories right there. So first off, let's read the passages that's going to show us what the right hand of God is. All right. So then we'll read about the behemoth in Job 40 and where the Leviathan comes in. Okay. So first we understood all about, now should I go this route? I always go the wrong route than the route that I actually took. And so my computer here is just pulling up pieces. That's gonna take forever. Okay, so let's get the right passage up first. Okay, so, not that I didn't write it down, so never mind. Psalm 89:9. It says, and this is how we connect it, the right hand. Alright, my computer's acting up, so I'm glad I wrote it down. So this is what it says. Okay, let's connect the right hand right quick. Psalm 89:10 is one of the passages. No, I'm not going to start there. You know where I'm going to start? I'm going to start in Isaiah 51. That's where we're going to start. So I'm actually going to do this reverse to the way I wrote it down. Sorry, I'm babbling. So Isaiah 51, not 51. Okay, yeah, 51. That's the passage we're going to read first. And see, that I have every passage pulled up on this old computer. And now it's messing up on me here. Okay, we'll get you. Okay, so we'll start here. Isaiah 51 says this, verse 1. All right, this is how we're going to identify who the right hand of God is called in scriptures, along with many other passages that I hit on this morning. So Isaiah 51:9. Awake, awake, put on strength, O arm of the Lord. So it says, awake, awake. We need to remember that. Wake up. She's saying, wake up, my arm. Time for you to wake up and put on your strength. All right? O arm of the Lord. Awake as in the ancient days. So we're actually going to end up looking at, now it's saying I got no internet, saying that this is actually taking us back to the presence of God. Is actually what this is taking us back to. So awake as in the ancient days, in the generations of old. Art thou not, it's got it, but she. Because we've identified the right hand as daughter Zion. This is what we're going to do here. Art thou not she that hath cut Rahab? Who is Rahab? We're going to identify who Rahab is, okay? And wounded the dragon. Who's the dragon? Right? Verse 10. Art thou not she which has dried up the sea, the waters of the great deep, that hath made the depths of the sea a way for the ransom to pass over? Where does that take us to? Thank goodness I got my Bible. I mean, my gosh, we wouldn't want this to work. Sorry about that. There we go. Okay, now it's saying I got internet. Lovely. Okay. So, we wanted Isaiah. Okay, so that passage, okay, awake, awake, and then it says, verse 10, we're going to link this, verse 10, art thou not she, which has dried up the sea, the waters of the great deep, that has made the depths of the sea a way for the ransom to pass over. So that takes us to the admixture of doctrine that you see the spirit of Moses identified as the presence of God, parted, all right? So that's the depths of the sea, a way for the ransom to pass over. So she had to part the Red Sea, which then takes you to Isaiah 42, all right? I have long time holding my peace. The presence of God has. I have been still and restrained myself. She's been restrained, the restrainer she is. Now will I cry like a travailing woman. This is Israel. I will destroy and devour at once. I will make waste mountains and hills and dry up all their herbs. And I will make the rivers island, and I will dry up the pools, the oceans. And I will bring the blind by a way that they knew not. I will lead them in paths that they have not known. Or maybe not oceans, but the pool here has the idea. Marshes, island marshes, whatnot, takes us to the Red Sea, okay, the Red Sea. And I will bring the blind by a way that they knew not. I will lead them in paths that they have not known. I will make darkness light before them and crooked things straight. We're looking at the Leviathan there. These things will I do unto them and not forsake them. They shall be turned back. They shall be greatly ashamed that trusted in graven images, that say to the molten images, ye are our gods. So here we see this, Isaiah 51. This is all connecting us to the daughter of Zion. Awake, awake, put on strength, O arm of the Lord. Awake as in the ancient days, in the generations of old, art thou not she that hath cut Rahab? Now, we're going to identify who Rahab is. First, we're going to go to Isaiah 52. It took all my Isaiahs away. Okay, no, here we go. So Isaiah 52. What does it say? This connects us. Awake, awake. Put on strength, O arm of the Lord. Who's the arm of the Lord? Isaiah 52 verse 1 tells us who it is. Awake, awake. Put on thy strength, O Zion. Look at that. Awake, awake. Put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city. For henceforth there shall no more come into thee the uncircumcised and the unclean. So those who are in covenant with the harlot. Who? Babylon. But watch who she's identified as. So verse 2, shake thyself from the dust, arise and sit down. O Jerusalem, loose thyself from the bands of thy neck, from the law, the man-made religious law and lies. O captive daughter of Zion. So it's talking about the feminine, the captive daughter of Zion. You can say the nation, no, it's talking about Israel, she, who's been yoked under man-made religious lies and laws. All right? She shook herself off out of the dust, which you find her doing in Isaiah 29, verse 4. We've looked at this verse, so I'm not going to discuss it here. All right? What's she sitting on? Her throne. What does God say to Babylon, the crooked serpent? In Isaiah 47, come down, daughter Babylon. There is no throne for you. There never was. She says, oh, but I will never be widowless. I will never be childless. No one sees me. I'm hid in his heart. That's what she's saying. All right? So here it says, O captive daughter of Zion, pick yourself up out of the dust and sit down. Take your throne. All right? For thus saith the Lord, ye have sold yourselves for naught, for nothing. You were sold for nothing, and ye shall be redeemed without money. So she's not saying I'm not going to redeem you with nothing. She's saying the way that I redeem you is to wash you clean. You are not washed with water. You are not washed with blood. You are washed with water. That's what she tells us. And how she redeemed us long ago of old. With her law, her truth. Which is imputed no blood into that law. So she says, I will redeem you also without money. I'll redeem you with the truth. That's what she's saying. The law. And she verifies that in the book of James, chapter 1. She says, I will birth you now with my truth, and you will be a first fruit of my new creation. That's what she says. So, did I want to read more here? For thus saith the Lord God, my people went down aforetime into Egypt. This is also giving us some indication here. Okay? This is not going the way I want it to. For thus saith the Lord God, my people went down aforetime into Egypt to sojourn there, and the Assyrians oppressed them without cause. They were in Egypt, and the Assyrians oppressed them. Who are the Assyrians? I didn't look that one up. Aren't they the Babylonians? And the Lord here is 136. We identified her number, 136, as daughters on. Now, all right, who's Rahab? Because when we go to Psalm 89, this, again, we just identified daughter Zion in Isaiah 51, who split Rahab, right? Art thou not she, right? In 51. Isaiah 51:9, awake, awake, put on strength, O arm of the Lord. Awake as in the ancient days, in the generation of old. Art thou not she that hath cut Rahab and wounded the dragon, right? Did you not lead them through your path, your straight path, after you parted the water, the admixture of doctrine? Then she says in Isaiah 52, awake, awake, put on thy strength, O daughter of Zion. Pick yourself up out of the dust of the earth and take your throne. And then she says of that covenant, of the wife, who was the wife of the original covenant in Malachi chapter 2. She says to Judah, she says, you dealt treacherously with the wife of your youth, yet is she the wife of your covenant. So it's going to be her law that's restored. All right? So now we go to Psalm 89, right? This is where we're headed. Psalm 89, verse 9. You rule the raging sea. Who does? The right hand, identified as daughter Zion. You rule the raging sea. When its waves mount up, you still them. Verse 10. You, Israel, the behemoth, who has a tail, long tail. All right? Crushed Rahab like a carcass. You scattered your enemies with your mighty arm. Who? Israel, the daughters of Zion. The heavens are yours, and also the earth and its fullness. You found it. You founded it. You put the children on it. You did. They sprung from you, is what that's saying. So we're linking Rahab. Now, here's the definition of Rahab. This is going to take us to number 7294. Rahab. The same as Rahab 7293, so we'll look at that too. But Rahab means a boaster, and it's also an epithet for Egypt, or of Egypt. Rahab, Egypt. Wow. Who took out Egypt? The daughters of Zion did, known as the presence of God upon this earth, which we've already identified in prior videos. So this word Rahab is derived from this word 7293, or it says it'll be the same as 7293, which is Rahab, Strong's Hebrew. Rahab, storm, a sea monster. Ooh, look at that. Rahab, Egypt, is identified as a sea monster. Also means arrogancy, bluster, proud, strength. Number one here. It's a mythical sea monster that you'll find in Job 9:13. You'll find it in Job 26:12. You'll find her in Psalm 89, verse 11. That's one we just read. Isaiah 51:9. We also read that one. So we're identifying the right hand as daughter Zion, Israel, as the behemoth. Now, verse number 2 of the Strong Hebrew 7293, emblematic name of Egypt. So she goes by Rahab. Egypt does. Psalm 87:4 says this, 87:4. I will record Rahab and Babylon among those who acknowledges me. Philistia 2, Tyre. Look at that. There's Tyre. We're going to do a study on that too in the next video. Along with Cush, and we'll say this daughter, was born in Zion. Right? Oh, release thyself, O captive daughter. Take the bonds off. Isaiah 30, verse 7. To Egypt, whose help is utterly useless. Therefore I call her Rahab the do-nothing. That's what it says there. So Rahab that got smashed in these verses, which helps to identify who the right hand of God is, which is daughter Zion, awake, awake, which then also further identifies the Lord who is asleep, who does awaken in the Old Testament, and I have a bunch of those verses pulled up, is 136, and her number is daughter Zion's number is 136. So Psalm 78:65, who awakens? Then the Lord awoke us from sleep, as a warrior wakes from the stupor of wine. What wine? That admixture of doctrine, that blood that they dripped into her water. All right? That we've been talking about. Which she then sees as the spirit of Moses, but it's the presence of God on this earth. The daughters of Israel, whom the men of Israel rejected a covenant with. Built up a harlot, Babylon. Then the Lord awoke us from sleep as a warrior wakes from the stupor of wine. So she's drunk on wine, to which you see that in the Shulamite. All right? So the Shulamite, what does she say? She says, I slept, but my heart was awake. So the spirit's awake the whole time, or the spirit's asleep. The heart, the soul is asleep, but the spirit's awake. I think that's how we're to take that. I slept, but my heart was awake. Right? So, listen, my beloved is knocking. Open to me, my sister, my darling, my flawless one, excuse me. My head is drenched with dew. With her doctrine, with mother's doctrine. The daughter's doctrine is the same. My hair with the dampness of night. So we're still in the darkness here. So, but she's got to waken the dawn. She's the doe that wakes the dawn up. We discussed that in another video. But here we are looking at, what was we looking at? I can't remember now. I knew if I left it, I'd forget it. Yeah, I was in Isaiah 52. Right? So, but I didn't look up the word Assyrian here either in Isaiah 52, verse 4. And though they were in Egypt, it says they were oppressed by the Assyrians. Now, I would take that to be Babylon myself, but I haven't done the research on it. Now, who is Leviathan in the scriptures? Who is Leviathan? Now, did I go back far enough? Maybe I ain't gone far enough back. Okay. So, this is not hard. This is hard. This is not easy, sorry. Zillah. If you punch in Strong's Hebrew Zillah, you're going to come up with a feminine name. And she was a wife of Lamech, I think was his name, which was Noah's, was he Noah's grandfather? Anyway, Zillah was one of his two wives, I believe is what it's going to tell you there. So you get God, Zillah is what you get. Now the interesting thing that it says about this name Zillah, and this is actually going to help us pinpoint the right hand more. Zillah is that it probably derives from the word shade, which is to sell, which is T-S-E-L or T-S-E-L-A. And I'll put the topic Zillah, okay, in my links underneath this video. And so you get God, Zillah. But Zillah is derived from shade. And shade is further, if you understand what it's actually allegorical to, it's allegorical to the spirit. So it's saying God's shade, God's spirit, God's presence, God, Zillah. Because Zillah is derived from Selah. All right, now down here, all right, it is T-S-E-L, shadow, shade. So that word is 6738. That actually is an important word because it links us to Psalm 121:5. And this is what Psalm 121:5 reads. The Lord, not himself, herself, watches over you. It's her presence. It's her spirit. That's the feminine. All right? So the Lord herself watches over you. The Lord stands beside you as your protective shade. So the idea is she's standing to the right hand. All right? That's important. And I'm not certain that it doesn't actually say that in some of the renderings. So let me see if I have it actually pulled up here. There it is. Yeah, it does. Right hand is actually right in the verse. It's funny, I had so much going on in my brain. This is hard to do. This is hard to... Look, I get things flying around again. The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade, your covering. What covered Judah? What was his protection? On his high priest breastplate, the stones encrusted in gold. So the Lord is your shade at your right hand, is your spirit at your right hand. The Lord herself watches over you. The Lord stands beside you as your protective shade. It's got spirit, covering. She's your protector, your spirit, she. Again, your right hand. They want to say he. No, she's identified as she. All through the scriptures as daughter Zion. Now, that right hand is going to link us to the Behemoth. All right? Now, here we go. Job 40. What does Job 40 say? Watch this. Okay. Once have I spoken. This is going to be in verse 5. Job 40, verse 5. Once have I spoken, but I will not answer. Yea, twice, but I will proceed no further. So she goes silent. Then answered the Lord unto Job out of the whirlwind, storm, and said, Gird up thy loins now like a man, and I will demand of thee, and declare thou unto me. So it's she speaking. She's upset with man for rejecting her daughters. Will thou also disannul my judgments? Yeah, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to say that daughter Zion isn't the judge. She is identified in Micah chapter 5 verse 1 as the judge that they struck on the cheek in silence. She went silent of her own accord. The Spirit did. Will thou also disannul my judgment? Will you condemn me that you might appear righteous? Yep, that's what Adam did. Has thou an arm like God? Have you an arm like Israel? Do you have an arm like our mother from above has an arm? Because the mother of us all is from above. Galatians 4 tells you that. Mother Jerusalem, Mother Israel. She's the mother of us all. Has thou an arm like God? Or canst thou thunder with a voice like him? No, her. It's her. She's upset. Now, it speaks of her having a right hand. Now, yes, you could say it's Job. It's a man she's talking to. Yeah, it's a man she's talking to. But make no mistake, the right hand belongs to her. Because she says, to what man will I give my right hand to? What man is good enough for me to give my daughter to in marriage, right? And then she provides the one that is good enough. So, then adorn yourself with glory and splendor and clothe yourself in honor and majesty. If you're God, if you have a right hand like I do, then you do all these things and unleash the fury of your wrath. Look at all who are proud and bring them low. You do that. If you're God, look at all who are proud and humble them. Crush the wicked where they stand. Bury them all in the dust together and shroud their eyes in the grave. Then, so she tells him all this, then I myself will admit to you that your own right hand can save you. Who's your right hand? Daughter Zion, the wife of his covenant that he cast down and denied her law. And they were laws of peace, truth, equity, and he didn't want her. He built up a harlot, Babylon, which is called what? Now, we'll get on to that thought in a minute. After we identify the right hand here as a titan, I guess you'd call her, a behemoth. That's the allegory. This is the allegory that you got, because this just jumps right from God saying, then I will confess a thing unto thee. Know thee not thine own right hand can save thee. And then we jump to a description of the behemoth. That's a description of God's right hand on earth as Israel. God wrestles. That's what Israel's name means. It means God wrestles. And the daughters of Zion are wrestling against the harlot spirit that fallen Adam exalts in his heart. She's identified as the behemoth here, all right? And she has a tail, God's spirit, God's shade, God's cellar, God's cell. There you get it. I know it sounds crazy, but that's the one with the tail. So, and you know, if you want to get, and I wasn't going to mention this, and I won't say it right outright, but you'll get that derogatory with men who have no restraint around women, don't care about us or our feelings, or treating us with honor or respect, whether they say, I'm going to go get me some. I'm not going to say the word, but you get where I'm going. So here in verse 15, look at Behemoth, which I made with thee. She eateth grass as an ox? No, she's identified as a heifer in the Abraham covenant, which is the first animal identified there, promised full restoration back, which is the daughter Zion in Micah chapter 4, promised full restoration of her dominion back to her, under the covenant of her original spirit, which man cast down, did not want in covenant, wanted the harlot, which he builds up. Lo, now her strength is in her loins, and her force is in the navel of her belly. It says womb here. She moveth her tail like a cedar. There she is with the tail. The sinews of her stones are wrapped together. Her bones are as strong pieces of brass, and her bones are like the bars of iron. She is the chief, the first fruit, 7225 is your word here, feminine. She is the first fruits of the ways of God, of Israel. She is the first of Israel. God wrestles. She's God upon this earth, you see. And the daughters of Zion were known as God upon this earth. The sons of Zion were also known as the sons of God, who took wives of those harlot, those venomous serpents that Balak was told by Balaam to get and send into the men and seduce them with their lies. And that law that favored the exaltation of males on this earth and the debasement of the divine feminine was like honey on his tongue, but it was cobra's venom in his stomach. It was poisoning. It was killing us. And it did. Led to our death, didn't it? So she is the chief of the ways of Israel. Daughter Zion, she would be your six wings, your seraphim. The spirit identified that allows us to be in covenant above. All right? She that made her can also make her word to approach unto her. And she did. What did she take out the righteous daughters of Zion with? She took them out with another law, didn't she? The harlot's law. So she backed up everything she said she was able to do. God did. Surely the mountains bring her forth food where all the beasts of the field play. She lieth under the shady trees, and the covert of the reed and fens. The shady trees cover her with their shadow. The willows of the brook compass her about. Behold, she drinketh up a river. The rivers are identified as these daughters of Zion, splitting the earth with their truth, with the law of God. And hasteth not, and anywhere they go, life flourishes. That's what we're told in Ezekiel. So, behold, she drinketh up a river, and hasteth not. She trusteth that she can draw up Jordan into her mouth. She taketh it with her eyes. Her eyes are open now. Ooh, the 7 eyes of God. Her nose pierces through snares. So they took her in a snare for a while. The man-made religious lies and laws. That's what they did. That's what they did to these daughters, which then gets cast out into the lands of the Gentiles. Now, okay. Where are we going to go from there? So, all right. So with the awake, we see God there. That's where I was heading, wasn't it? Then the Lord awoke as from sleep, as a warrior awakes from the stupor of wine. So she's waking up as this behemoth, this God presence, all right? This protector of man, who is the right hand. She says to Job, have you a right hand like I have? Then she says, then I will confess a thing unto thee, know thee not, thine own right hand can save thee. She's talking about this Lord, 136, who sits to Joshua, whose number is 113 in the scriptures, in Psalm 110. And it is Mother who's sitting to his left. Now, you can call me a hypocrite, whatever. I had a dream that showed it totally different. I had a dream that showed Mother sitting in the middle. I had a dream that showed the Son sitting to the left. And to the right, the seat was empty. That's what I saw in the dream. Now, in this dream, I had been brought before the throne. And I believe this was many are, what's that verse? Many are, I forget it. Many are brought forth, but few are chosen, right? So this is the divine selection, I believe. And I believe I did see it in a dream. Now, I was stooped down so low, I couldn't see, but I was outside my body like you are in most dreams, and you could see everything playing out. And I was stooped down and I was weeping. And what I saw was Mother, the Queen, and she kind of had this, she looked like she had a great sense of humor, number one. But she kind of had this smirk. And the Son to the left was acting frustrated, angry, a sense of disinterest. And Mother was acting kind of, she had a smirk, she says to me, why are you weeping? And I gave the common spiel, because I'm not worthy to be here, before the Son who died. And and that was kind of where the dream ended. But since that time, many things have been fleshed out to me. Now, that's, I linked to many are called. That's it. Many are called, few are chosen. But what I took away from that was that he was very frustrated, aggravated. And I took that to heart. And so when I woke up the next day, I began to think about things in a different manner, to which some of it has come across on the channel. So, but here it says, then the Lord awoke as from sleep. So she says to her Son in Psalm 110, where 113 is identified, and into his right is 136, which is we've identified as his branch, Zion. Now it's the Mother who says, I will send the strength of your branch out of Zion. Which could be why I saw that seat to her right empty. Now there's also another verse we're going to read that it says, if I get the chance, I may not get the chance, where it says, in the left hand is honor and riches. That's the Son, the male. In the right hand is life eternal. So you see that identified already. The Son is to the left hand is riches and honor. To the right is the Spirit, female, identified as the eternal Spirit, which gives life, which is days, it says. Days without end. So you see those. So I saw Mother sitting in the middle. But in Psalm 110, you see the structure different. You see her saying to her Son, which is sitting to her right, I will send the strength of your branch out of Zion, she says. And that number identified to his right is 136, which is this Lord right here that's going to awaken, which we've just looked at, awake, awake, put on thy strength, O Zion. So that's why I saw that throne, and these weren't anything magnificent, they were just beautifully made chairs, thrones to sit in. But that one to her right was still empty. And so I believe I saw this. This was several years back that I had this dream. And then it says in Psalm 78:65, and the Lord hears 136, his daughter Zion's number identified. Then the Lord awoke as from sleep, as a warrior from who wakes from the stupor of wine. Then we have a whole bunch of other ones. Psalms 44:23. Wake up, O Lord, why are you sleeping? Arise, do not reject us forever. There's a court case that she's supposed to stand up and defend. We've discussed that. Psalm 73:20. Like one waking from a dream, so you, O Lord, 136, awaken and despise their form. What's the form? Man exalting himself as God. David says this in one of his verses, and there's others here it says. All right, but I'm not going to go through them. You get the idea. The number here is 136 of the Lord that awakens. And then she's identified in these three passages as the right hand, and then as the behemoth, to which God says, know thee not, thine own right hand can save you. And that's the behemoth, who's going to take out Rahab, number 1, and Babylon, number 2, which is called what? All right. Now, David says this. I just wanted to make this point. Because men teach man in love with a man. That's the abomination that maketh desolate. A man inside of a man will leave her desolate and with no children that will hearken to her doctrine. That's what that'll do. And that caused the casting down of daughter Zion's covenant in exchange for the rising up of the harlot spirit that would teach him as God. So you see the man inside of a man. So I think it's utterly ridiculous that when David speaks here that they put it as a hymn. It's sick, number 1. Psalm 27, verse 4. One thing I have asked of the Lord, this is what I desire, to dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, and to gaze on the beauty of the Lord, and seek not him, her. He was in love with the daughter of Zion, his key of David. That was the spirit he exalted, his right hand, if you want to say it that way, because mother says, to whom will I give my right hand to? Well, the first Adam didn't want her. She says, don't worry, to her daughter. I'll provide another son. He'll be of me. And he does end up being cut from his mother because he's walking her laws. He's walking Proverbs. In Proverbs 1, he's walking wisdom's law, which is identified as our mother Israel from above. So, yes, he came from his mother. And he receives the righteous spirit, daughter Zion, who David, which Christ is likened to David, is in love with as well. She's known as his key. And Proverbs 3:16, it says, length of days, this is it, Proverbs 3:16. Length of days is in her right hand. All right? So she's talking about her daughter, Israel, length of days. And in her left hand, which would be where her son is sitting, riches and honor. What does she say to her son? Exalt wisdom, and she will bring thee to great honor. And she does so through her daughter, who is the presence of God on this earth, sent to save mankind. And her ways are the ways of pleasantness. What does David say? He says, the lines have fallen to me in pleasant places. And all her paths are peace. She is a tree. Did I write all of it down? She is a tree of life. I didn't write it all down. But it's in Proverbs 3. Did I pull it up? Yeah. Yeah, 16. So she is a tree of life to them that lay hold upon her, and happy is everyone that retaineth her. So this tree is showing you Israel as wisdom, which is also where he wakes her up under the tree in Song of Songs 8:5, I believe. Yeah, I got a different passage up. Song of Songs 8:5, he says, I woke you up under the apple tree. So he's talking to the Lord, 136. But it's mother who sent her. Just as she sent the son, she sends the daughter, but he wakes her up. You know how he wakes her up? By showing what his love was about. Not what man tells you his love is about, but by showing his love to his beloved. And he says, I wake you up. So this is the Lord that awakes, 136, which is the strength of his rod, his scepter, his rule, which is also the Shiloh between his feet that he's covering and protecting until she comes into play, which is the Behemoth sent here to battle who? The Leviathan. So let's get to the Leviathan. Okay, so I'll get there. So I'm just trying to show all different methods for you to go in and to look at the scriptures and to maintain these things for yourself. Okay, so I need to go where? Okay, so Psalm 74 verse 12, all right? 11, verse 11, we'll start at. Why do you withdraw your strong right hand? So there came a point where she did withdraw her strong right hand, right? And she says, my sword can approach and take Israel out. The sons didn't want her. So she casts her out into the lands of the Gentile and she gives them what they want, which is the harlot spirit exalted in their heart. Which then is designed to teach them that that harlot is death to him. She can't save him. But the right hand that was originally gave to him could save him, which he cast off, didn't want. So her own sword, her own laws. So she says, fine, you take those laws. I'll let you have them. Now, we know where those laws come from, Babylon, right? So, Psalm 74:12, for God is my, not king of old, my queen of old. She was a queen denied. Working salvation. The salvation is 3444, which is feminine, Yeshua, deeds, deliverance, victories. Go look the word up. In the midst of the earth. So she's been here. You divided the sea. She divided the sea, the right hand, which we've identified through those passages that we just went through. Isaiah 51, Isaiah 52, and Psalm 89. They all take you to the right hand. So you divided the sea. That's the daughter of Zion, which divided the admixture of doctrine, which is on wisdom's table in Proverbs 9:1 when you go look it up. She says, I've been forced to mingle my wine. That's what she says there. By your strength you smashed the heads. It says heads, multiple, not one. The heads of the dragons of the sea. Now the dragons of the sea here is not Rahab. It's a different word altogether. It's 8577, which is Tanin, which is serpent, dragon, or sea monster. And it also says Egypt. It's also, I believe also in this rendering, when you go into the notes, it'll also bring in Egypt once again. So she's there again, Egypt. 8577, it takes you to a marine or, and this is where the behemoth comes into play as being both, all right, in a sense. Marine or land monster, a sea serpent or a jackal. Oh, look at that. So this is, she says, you divided the sea, and by your strength you smashed the heads of the dragons of the sea, which then takes us not only to a marine animal, a sea serpent, but also to a land animal, which is a jackal. Now the jackal is very important, all right, because it's going to show us how the polluting of the word, the water, the doctrine, which took place first, then fed out to the land through the jackals, which is what in scriptures? Tan. So this word 8577 is also derived from tan, which is 8565, which means jackal, right? 776, Sheol, fox, means fox. So 7776, did I say 4 sevens or 3 sevens? 7776, a fox, or perhaps a jackal, this number says, as in a burrower. Ooh, why is this important? Because this takes us to Songs 2:15. Catch for us the foxes, the little foxes that ruins the vineyard. For our vineyard are in bloom. Our vineyards are in bloom. So what's the little foxes? Little. They're not the big boys. These are little foxes that's destroying the vineyard. You know who I'm going to liken them little foxes to? Ministers that takes the pulpit and teaches a lie. They're the little foxes that's destroying the vineyard right now. Your preachers, your ministers, getting on the pulpit, preaching a lie. Because they're too friggin' lazy, or this tickles the ears, a he, honey on their tongue, but it's cobra's venom, it's killing us, it's destroying the vineyard, it's gonna. But thank God for the right hand, which is the protector. That's right, comes out of the midst of the earth, out of the dust of the earth, all right? Reborn spirit. So this is why this is so important that we trace the words out and then are able to understand other passages if we've been through the scriptures enough to piece it together. And that's why study to show thyself approved unto God is important. And that's why it's hard study, not just reading and falling on man-made theology, but hard study that's going to bring on the day of the Lord, the controversy of Zion. That's what the day of the Lord is about. A harlot spirit. Now we're still not done because we ain't hit Leviathan yet. Okay, so I dropped my pen. So in Psalm 74:14, this is the reason why we studied this passage. You crushed the heads of Leviathan. You fed him, her, to the creatures of the desert. So what was promised? Yes, the serpent would bite her heel, but she would crush its head. So here's the head being crushed by the right hand, identified as the daughters of Zion, whom man rejected. Didn't want him in covenant. Didn't want her law ruling the world. And yet it states, you crushed the heads of Leviathan. You fed him, her, to the creatures of the desert. So she crushes it because this is the false foundation, which then leads you back to those foxes, those burrowers. It's a burrower. They dug out the truth and packed in lies, is your understanding. And those lies, we tried to birth our truth as that woman with child. In Isaiah 26, which is Zion, we tried to birth our children with wind. And that brings us back to this lie, empty doctrines. You will never have a deliverance in the earth, and the inhabitants, your false rulers, will never fall as long as you are trying to deliver your children through a lie. All right? Now, over we go. So in Psalm 74:14, she, the Behemoth Israel, right hand, crushes the fleeing serpent's head. What's the number for Leviathan here, or for the serpent's head? It's 3882. It's Leviathan. It's a serpent. It's a sea monster or a dragon. A Leviathan, as in mourning. It brings on great sorrow. But great sorrow for who, really? Well, number one, for the women. But for many of the sons, too, who are in terrible distress today. And there's a group, they're in total denial. They think that they can sit on their hands and twiddle their thumbs and get away with doing nothing because, we don't got to do nothing. Really? You're a part of this too. And so what else does it say of the Leviathan? From lava. The word is from lava, which means a wreath. What's a wreath? It has the idea of crookedness. Crooked. It's crooked. It's a crooked path. Long time have I holden my peace. Right? She says, now will I destroy and devour. I will lead them in paths, straight paths, that they have not known. I'll part the admixture of doctrine. All right? Would you get two women in allegory in Galatians 4, which we've looked at? So, it's from lava, a wreathed animal, a serpent. So wreath means twisted, right? A serpent, especially they say the crocodile or some other large sea monster. It's figurative of the constellation of the dragon. So if you study the constellations, you'll know more about this than I ever did. But it's also a symbol of who? Babylon. Oh, looky there. Babylon. So the Leviathan that gets crushed over here in Psalm 74 by the right hand, daughter Zion, identified as the Behemoth in Job 40, she crushes the head of Babylon. Their man-made religious laws and lies used to subjugate the queen because she's told to take her throne, sit down. She's told in Isaiah 52, awake, awake, as in the Lord that awakens as if from wine, drunk on wine. A lie. We getting it yet? I think that's just amazing. Wow. And there's so many other places I wanted to go. It was you who crushed the head of Leviathan and gave it as food to the creatures of the desert. You broke open the fountain and the flood. You dried up the ever-flowing rivers. Those are the lies. So, I'll post the topic of Zillah underneath. God, Selah is the word. Sel, shadow, God's shadow. God's spirit, God's covering. Okay, I'm just checking through here. This was so fun to do. It's also the Leviathan. I think it's the Leviathan. It may be Rahab, where it's also likened to a whale. So you get the idea of Jonah being swallowed by the whale, by the system. And what did it do? Spitting back out. The system spitting back out. And it did the same with Joshua, with Jesus. The system crucified him because he wouldn't walk their man-made religious laws and laws. It is not blood that washes you. It was the water that caused Jesus to be resurrected. That's what caused him to be resurrected. He walked her laws in truth. Israel, his mother who gave life to him, he's the only begotten son of God. Israel wrestles. That was the daughters. The wrestling against the harlot spirit that man exalts in his heart, that then makes him a he, or he, a God, he, the giver of life. No, he doesn't. According to the scriptures, Israel is the mother of us all, and she rules the heavens and the earth. And you get that all in allegory of the Titans, of Godzilla, who fought Kong in the last one that I seen. Kong is allegorical to Baal. That's what that's allegorical to. When you run out these words, it's just astounding at the truth you're going to learn. And so the Rahab that Israel cut is Egypt. And it has the idea that this Leviathan is many-headed. It's a many-headed beast, sea serpent. So we've identified two of those heads as Egypt, Rahab, and Babylon. This is the Assyrians oppressed you. So the Assyrians were what? In charge of Egypt? Were they the rulers in Egypt that caused Israel to take out the lie eventually that fed into physical Israel off of Mount Zion, which was really the harlot spirit? And these men came to exalt these religious lies in the world. And according to what you can understand, they fed out from Egypt first. That's where they fed out from. And she's figurative of Rahab, a sea monster. To be in the sea means that you take control of the law of God, the doctrine, the waters, the dew. He says, my hair is full of the dew. He's talking her law. That's why he's saying that. And we get the dew, her dew, identified in Deuteronomy 32, which is the doctrine of heaven. And so when you understand that this sea animal, the sea serpent, was also a marine animal, then you really do get the behemoth. The behemoth can be on the land or in the water. So it really does take you to the allegory in the movies of God, Selah, or Sel, God's presence on this earth, which is female. It's feminine. It's not male. And she's the life giver. She's that energy. The interesting thing is, they say we have 12 strands of DNA. I'll mention this in this. I know I missed a whole bunch I wanted to say. I always do. But you can go research these passages and hopefully flesh it out for yourself. But they say that we have 12 strands of DNA, and only 2 strands are awake. The other 10 they used to call junk DNA. Now they're realizing that it's not. That's interesting, because there was 12 tribes of Israel, the 2 tribes of Judah, and then the 10 tribes of Israel, the north. Now, the 10 DNA that's asleep, I believe they have been known to call it your energy DNA, right? That's just interesting. Something you can look at, go into yourself, and then you see Israel in allegory. She is your life giver. She holds a power that is foreign to the world. They haven't seen the likes of it since the Exodus. It says that in Isaiah 64, Isaiah 63, Isaiah 64 will lead you to that understanding. Signs of her arrival and being here on earth are distinctly seen through volcanic eruptions and earthquakes, is what Isaiah 64 is showing you. So it says, since that time you have not seen the likes of me. And yet, now we're seeing the rise of this again. So we're seeing the birth of these daughters out of the dust of the earth, and they are a divine selection. And I believe they have had dreams or whatever, though the dreams isn't, the way that, we're to use our 7 eyes to understand. But yeah, we are given dreams from God. God can override the lies easy. And so, some of us has had those dreams, and, we told you where the double camp, Mahanaim, which is God's camp, God's presence, which is shepherded by the Shulamite, and it's a flock of she-goats. She appears in the Abrahamic covenant, Genesis 15:9. That's why she's important. They're also identified as the lilies of the covenant. And we looked at that. So there we have it. The Behemoth is going to take out the Leviathan. Israel's going to take out Babylon. And it's seen as multi-headed in one of those movies. It's seen as 3-headed, showing 3-headed. And it's allegorical to Babylon. This movie is showing you it playing out in the heavens to a degree. And that's why the Middle Earth comes into play. That's why that Middle Earth comes into play. Anyway, sorry to babble about that. Most thinks it's foolish, but the allegories are definitely there. And they're there in scriptures once you understand how to interpret the scriptures. Christ spoke in parables. That's another way of saying allegorically. And so this is what we are to see. Yeah. There's so many passages that I'm missing that I wanted to read and give to you, but that's enough. We're almost an hour. So thanks for watching. The next video should be video 6 on unlocking the mysteries of the Bible with the key of David. Hopefully this time when I go in to make my notes, I really will get them done. When I get it posted, I don't know. I hope to do it relatively quickly. But this one, it's April 5th today. I may get it uploaded tonight. I don't know. But nevertheless, I thank you for watching my videos. I pray the Lord blesses you with an abundance of truth. I hope you can take away something from the video. It's quite exciting when you're able to break the deeper allegories down. And to be able to share it with others, though there's very few, according to my count, watching and very few liking my videos. I watch my likes climb sometimes, and then next thing I know, they're going down. It's funny. Anyway, again, thanks for watching, and I hope y'all have a really nice day.